What's up, everyone? I want to apologize in advance if I seem like I'm being somewhat abrasive in personality today. I kind of had a rough morning, and yeah, so there's that. But today I wanted to tell you about what I've been doing about looking for a job because I've been talking about it for months, and I obviously don't have one yet. A few videos ago, I talked about how one of you out there had contacted my employer and told them that I was applying for jobs, made them aware of my YouTube channel, and after that happened, I met with HR. The HR guy brought it up with me. He likes the channel. He doesn't have a problem with me having it, but they are now aware that I am looking. So, with that being the case, that actually allows me to talk about something that I've been wanting to share with you guys, but I just didn't want to endanger my job by making videos about me looking for jobs. So, I want to tell you, all in all, I have applied to 74 jobs. That has been since October of 2016. Now, I've had quite a few interviews. I haven't kept track of how many interviews I had, just which jobs I applied for. But I did actually want to talk about which specific ones and how close I've come so many times to getting a job, which is what makes it so frustrating. So, I'll show you this. First of all, probably one of the first things I did is I texted my old assistant manager from this site. She used to work for a company called Oakwood, and her mom is a regional manager there. I used to work for that company too. I have a glowing reference from my former property manager, and I thought, if anything, when they post ads, they'll want to hire somebody from there. Well, first of all, my assistant property manager here left there and went to a property called the Ravines at We Star. I'm pretty sure she's at a different one now, but she went there. And so when I saw that they were posting for leasing positions, I was like, that's amazing. I know the property manager there. She loves me. This will be amazing. So I texted her about it, and I hadn't talked to her for 4 or 5 months, since she left. And she was kind of real wishy-washy about it and was like, oh, well, yeah, like, I'll see what I can do. And then I followed up with her, and she said, oh, well, I think actually we're just going to promote someone from a lesser property within the company. And I was kind of frustrated I wasn't getting anywhere with that, especially because they didn't just hire someone from within the company. They continued to run this ad over and over again. And yet I was like, oh, great. Well, this person I thought that liked me really doesn't think I'd be good for her property. So, that kind of thing, that really frustrates me because I'm really good at my job. And so for someone to, like, have the opinion about me that I'm not going to do a good job, that really bothers me. But anyway, a little bit later, I actually emailed her mom. I got her, because she's a regional manager, she's featured on the website. Emailed her mom, and I was like, hey, I used to work with your daughter. I see that this other site, which was High Point on Columbus Commons, that they're hiring for an assistant property manager. I've applied for it twice, but now there's a little caveat, a little backstory to this. This Helen, who is the regional manager for Oakwood, I had spoken to her before because actually when I got the job here, she asked me, like, well, why did you leave Oakwood? And I said, well, I didn't want to. Oakwood was fine, but I had applied for 10 or 20 jobs as they had been posted through the website and through their ads on Craigslist, and I never heard back from a single one of them. And she's like, that's insane. She's like, we're desperate for people. We never would want anyone to leave the company. I'm going to look into that and see what's going on. So because of that background, that happened probably like a year prior to me contacting her. I contacted her. I was like, hey, I know, we discussed this issue in the past. I used to work with your daughter, and I see that High Point, which is a site I'm familiar with because it used to be managed by the company I used to work for, that they are struggling to find somebody for this assistant property manager position. I was like, I have 2 years experience in that position, so I think I'd be a good fit for it. And she's like, hey, yeah. She's like, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you. Never heard anything. Continued to run the ads for weeks. I mean, this is just really frustrating because what it comes down to is you have people like me who are desperately trying to find a job and who are either qualified or overqualified for the job. And then you have the supposed professionals and experts who are the hiring people, HR, these companies, but they seem to be so completely incompetent of how to hire someone or a qualified person or how to even find candidates. Which I'll get into that in a bit if I remember to as well. That there was another situation like that where I found a company that literally had not even posted a job ad and they were complaining that they couldn't find candidates. Well, no shit. How do you think this works? Do you think they're just going to show up at your door and know about the job you didn't advertise? Jesus fuck, like what am I dealing with here? So, anyway, out of all the places that I interviewed, these are the ones that I got past the phone interview stage. Now, the first one was for a place, it was not even built yet, actually. If you want to look this place up, go ahead. It's Legacy Management Services, also goes by LMS. They're a local company, mostly have stuff near campus, but they're branching out into higher-end luxury housing. They bought an old factory in the Discovery District next to Columbus State Community College. They're adding a few stories to it, and it's going to be like one of the most high-end developments in Columbus. But it is only maybe 80 or 85 units. So if I were to take that position, I'd be the only one. I would do all the leasing. I'd be the property manager. As a lot of you guys know, part of the problem with my current position is policies and procedures and management, or lack of management. So if I were to have control over the property, I know that things would be done right. And that was important for me. So, and if I'm going to leave this job, and probably leaving this job on bad terms, then I want to know that it's unquestionable that I should be leaving here. You know, I'm leaving for a much higher position, much more money, and a much better property. It was a perfect scenario. I went into the interview with them. I'd already had a phone interview, went into the interview at the corporate office, and it was great. They all seemed cool. Small corporate office. The girl who had recruited me, I sort of knew her. We went to OU at the same time. Went to OU before I transferred to Marietta. And we really hit it off. Interview went great. And then basically she said, all I need to do is I just need you to meet the owner. We discussed times for me to go meet the owner. And then she said she'd email me over the weekend. Well, she didn't email me over the weekend. And I sent a follow-up email, and I didn't hear anything. And later in that following week, I got an email from her, and it was like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I thought I'd responded to this, and it was like some bullshit. And then she's like, well, we're really sorry, but the owner decided to go a different direction. She really implied that she, as the hiring person, wanted to hire me, but that the owner of the site decided to go with someone else. I was obviously very disappointed in this, and I didn't really have an answer as to why. So I kept looking into it. After a few months, they changed the website for the new place that was being built to show the new property manager's name, and I looked this person up. Instead of hiring somebody who has 17 years work experience and three of those years being in the industry, they hired someone who literally was in college, who was graduating that year, who had zero experience in property management or real estate, didn't even have a degree that related to the field. I mean, what the hell? I wasn't asking to be compensated for my experience. They told me how much the salary is, what it would be, and that's what I was getting. You know, I wasn't asking for a lot of money. I wasn't asking for anything. And I don't know. I don't know. So the next place after that, just ridiculous, um, was Autumn Springs, Zinger Property Management. Let me tell you about Autumn Springs. This was an assistant property manager role. And I found out about it because Blake, who was the property manager, he had posted on this Facebook group for apartment people that he was looking for someone for this role. And so I applied and I said, hey, I just worked down the street and, I've been an APM for 2 years. I think I'd be great at this. We did an interview, phone interview. He asked me to come in one day after work, and after they were closed, and interview with him in person. But this interview was weird, man. I asked a lot of questions about the position, and I mean, some of the stuff that he said was just like totally not okay. He had this weird attitude, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but like the term neckbeard, this is definitely this guy. I can absolutely see him wearing a fedora outside work. He was wearing like a white blazer and had like the Bluetooth in his ear. And I mean, he just acted like he was a millionaire. I looked up his LinkedIn profile. It said he was like an investment banker or something. Like, no, dude, you run an apartment complex. Just really odd guy and kind of like too demanding for the job and too full of himself. And he spent a lot of the interview just telling about himself and how great he was and how much he did for the company. And I mean, look, I know these things are red flags. I'm pretty desperate for a job, but I'm not desperate enough that I'm just going to go like somewhere where it's going to be worse. And that was, what he was throwing down here is that, I don't know. I won't even go into specifics. It just sounded like I was going to be working on call 24/7, possibly less money than I was making currently. Just an awful, awful situation. And here's the other thing. Before he interviewed me, like I show up and he's like, oh, hey, here's an application. Go over to the clubhouse and fill this out. Now, I have a huge problem with applications, okay? Let's say 15 years ago when I graduated high school, that was the standard procedure. You got a paper job application, and then you would fill that out and bring it back, right? Or you'd fill it out while you're there. People didn't really use resumes at that time except for like higher end positions like academia or like professional jobs. Well, that now we have the internet. You don't do that. You either submit it online or you email them your resume. Well, I have a problem with resumes not with resumes. I have a problem with applications because most places make you attach your resume and then you have to fill out the same information, whether it be online or on the paper application. And I get from an HR perspective that they need you to sign the application so they can do like a credit or background check or whatever. I get that, but don't waste my time. Like, if you have 100 people applying for a job, you're only going to run one of those applications. You're wasting the time of 99 people. And then if you put down, a certain, like you're supposed to fill out all the application. I've always been taught that. If you leave things blank, it looks bad. Well, I can't. You don't need to know the mailing address of my high school. I graduated 15 years ago. You're not going to check and see if I have a degree. Like, if you're going to look up my college degree, you're going to contact my college. Literally just Google it. Their number comes up. I don't need to write all this stuff down for you. I don't need to write the physical address and my exact dates of employment for every store I've worked at. That's ridiculous. That's not the information you're looking at, and it's a huge waste of time. So anyway, um, maybe I'll make a whole video about that. I have a huge problem with applications. Um, Either do an application or do a resume, not both. So anyway, I had to do the application, and this guy was just like a royal douchebag. So then he tells me that he wants me to follow up with him like the following Monday or some whatever day it was. I just never followed up with him. I mean, he made it pretty clear that I was going to be miserable there. He was trying to sell me on the job, but just seeing him and him telling me about the job, I knew it was going to be awful. So I didn't follow up with him. He didn't follow up with me. It's funny because my assistant property manager here actually went up to see them and for something, I don't know, and she saw that it was like kind of, she said that the girl that was in the position acted like she hated her life, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured that out. And then she was gone within a few weeks, so no one would last long there. The next thing is, after I had the Autumn Springs interview, I had 2 interviews almost back to back. I had Mondays off, and it was like one Monday I had the first interview, then the second company's interview was the next Monday. And the first one was with a place called Commons on Kinnear. Now at this point, I was working at our other site, which is student housing down near OSU. And it's 600 and some units, and I was working down there, and I think because the name of our management company has to do with that site, that they just assumed that that's the site I worked at, even though that wasn't the case. But I was working there part of the time. I was floating between the 2 locations, and they were like really quick to snatch me up. Now, I was familiar. This was Pearson Student Housing Corp or something like that was the company behind it, and I was familiar with some of the other properties they had like near WVU. And anyway, so again, I come in, I think it was after work, I come in for this interview. It was like they scheduled it last possible second, and I said, well, hey, like, I'm coming from work. Normally I'd wear a suit to an interview, but I'm just gonna come in button down shirt and khakis. That's what we wear. And they're like, oh, no, that's totally fine. But then when I got into the interview, when we were talking about different things and like dress code, she kind of was like looking at me and being kind of condescending about what I was wearing, even though I told her this is what we wear to work and that's what I was going to be wearing to the interview. You just can't win with these people, I swear to God. So then, anyway, I heard nothing back from them at all. Complete waste of time. Oh, and not only that, but when they contacted me through LinkedIn, okay? So when they contacted me and I scheduled my interview, they told me that they had already gone through the rounds of interviews and I would be the very last one, and like they were like squeezing me in. And I said something to my assistant property manager here, and she's like, why the hell did they even interview you then? I have no idea. Maybe just to find as many people as possible that they could waste their time. That's the only possible scenario I can think of. So, as I said, the following Monday after that, I had my interview with Edwards. Now, Edwards is a pretty well-known company here in Columbus. They own a lot of stuff up toward Dublin. They have some stuff downtown. They also have a few student properties, and there is a division of the company called Edwards Student Housing. And so I met them down at South Campus Gateway, and I interviewed. Again, this is kind of the thing of like they had recruited me, not the other way around. And I came into the office. I don't know. We went over to Barnes & Noble because their office was a mess, and we just kind of hung out there, talked, had a coffee, and they explained to me that the position was going to be for one site, but that was only for like 3 months, and then the other site would be built, and at that point I'd go to that site and I would stay there permanently. Now, this was for a leasing manager position, which is kind of between what I want to do and what I'm doing now. And, but obviously paid more. I thought the interview went pretty well. But you know how you go through an interview and it's like, it seems to be going well, but at the very end of it, like, however you say goodbye to one another, like, you kind of get the opposite vibe. That was kind of like how I picked it up. It was like, well, yeah, probably this isn't going to go anywhere. I did follow up with them by email, got no response, nothing. And I think that was back in May. It might have even been April. So that means like June, July, August. It's August now. 3 months. In the last 3 months, there's been hardly anything to even apply for. And finally, I looked again on that Facebook group and I saw somebody that said, hey, we're hiring for all positions in Columbus. No idea what the company was. So I sent her an email, or well, Facebook Messenger message, whatever. Sent her a message on that, sent her my resume, and she's like, thanks, I'll send this on to the property manager. Well, I heard nothing from the property manager, but a couple of weeks later, I got a call from Danny Sugarman, who is the vice president for leasing of Borer, which is one of probably like the top 5 property management companies here in Columbus. So we do a phone interview. Goes great. She asked me to come in for an in-person interview. I come in for the in-person interview, and she explains to me that I basically have this job. The reason for it is my experience, and that they have no other candidates for this job. Because it was a weird situation, so they were hesitant to even advertise it. Basically, I was going into a property as an assisted property manager that is going to be for sale in October. Now, she said more than likely they're probably going to stick with Borer as their property management company, even when the new owners take over. She said if that's not the case, generally, the office staff is given an offer by the company that comes in. There's very little chance that I would just be out of a job. So I thought, this is worth the risk. It really, truly is. So I mean, we talked compensation, we talked everything about like start dates, everything. They really talked to me like I was the only option they had, that they appreciated me taking this risk, like everything was set up, good to go. The only thing a little bit that she seemed a little bit skeptical of was that I asked for $18 an hour. And she asked me, she's like, well, is that including commission? And I'm like, no. And I explained to her, 2 years ago I made $17 an hour. With inflation, that's $17.50 or so, $17.75. So I'm just asking to make the same amount that I did before. But I told her, look, I'm going to have to start driving to the property. I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to lose my 20% discount on my apartment. Even if I lived on site with that company, they only offer 10%. And the apartments are more expensive. So, I argued it. I was like, look, I'm looking at the full picture here, and in order for me to take this position, even just to break even, not to even make more money, I have to have $18 an hour. And she didn't say no. She seemed a little hesitant of it. Turns out, I found out a little bit later that probably was not the reason why I was not hired. So that was on, I believe, a Friday. Is that right? No. I think it was a Monday that I interviewed with her. And then that Thursday, I had followed up with her and got no response. So I emailed Kate, who was the regional manager who I'd contacted originally through Facebook. And Kate said, hey, yeah, actually, can you come out and do a second interview with me? It'll be at the site and with the property manager there. So I was like, cool. And then at the last moment, she changed it to a different site, but it would still be it was actually closer to me than the one I'm be working at, so that's fine. So I end up going to this other site, which I'll tell you guys is Gateway Lakes. I was supposed to be working at College Park, and I interview with this woman who is going to be the new property manager at the site that I'm going to be working at. She seemed fine. We got along fine, but she seemed like the most stereotypical apartment office employee. She was like 60 years old, had 40 years experience in the field, very like straight-laced, uptight, like I actually thought maybe I'd have a problem working with her, but I need a job. I was gonna give it a try. She just seemed like she was too bought into the apartment industry and the way things are done versus how things should be done. And I just hate people that just go with the way that a industry is structured and don't think for themselves. And I feel like that's what her deal was. So anyway, but we got along well, and then things went well with the property manager, the regional manager, and then the regional manager asked me to go to the actual site on Sunday. So this is Friday that I have this interview, and they tell me to go to the actual site. So on Sunday, I go over and I shop. This is what they asked me to do. And in our industry, shop means like basically a secret shopper. And I shopped the girl who they told me it was her last day, but she was working at at College Park, and I went and I shopped her. And she was very nice, and she knew a lot about the property. She was pretty professional. So I reported back to Kate about that, and I saw that she read the message, never replied. A few days later, I emailed Danny, saw that she read the message, never replied. A few days after that, I left a message for Danny on her voicemail at corporate, no reply. I mean, at this point, I'm not surprised. I mean, I should be, but I'm really not. My assistant manager is more surprised because I think every time I tell her I have an interview, she thinks I'm going to get it. I'm like, damn, I wish I could have your confidence about this. But when you apply for 74 jobs, have like 6 in-person interviews, and every one of them after the interview stops talking to you, you know, what is the actual problem here? I'm qualified, I'm competent, I'm confident, and I'm good at what I do. I'm good with people. What is the actual problem here? So I contacted my college's career center, and I said, here's the situation. It's like, I've had all these interviews, I get to the last stage, they act like they're figuring out compensation and getting me my award letter, and then I never fucking hear from them again. I mean, look, I know how job searching works, okay? And if I don't hear from a place, I get over it quickly. All right? If I don't hear from them, I just assume I didn't get the job. That's fine. But don't imply that I'm going to get the job, or that I'm the only candidate for the job, or don't have me go shop your property and send you feedback. Like, don't lead me on if you're not interested in hiring me. Like, and then not understand why I keep contacting you to follow up, right? Like, I'm sure they're like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. Why does he keep calling us every few days? Well, because you told me to just wait on my offer letter, right? So if you didn't have any intention of hiring me, if you didn't think I did well at the interview, you don't have to say, hey, you suck. Just don't lead me on. Just say, hey, if you got the job, you'll hear from us. Fair enough. All right, so anyway, like I said, I contacted my college career center. They said, well, here, why don't you email back these people that you were emailing with, and ask them, what it was that just tell them that you're trying to do better in future interviews, and ask them what it was that they that they thought you could do better at. Of course, I sent 3 of those out, got absolutely 0 responses, and I'm just fucking done. I'm done. Alright? I know I made a video before that I'm leaving the industry, and I honestly really do think that I'm being discriminated against because I'm a guy. And if you haven't watched my video about I'm leaving the it's titled I'm leaving the industry. If you haven't watched that, watch the little segment in there about why my whole reasons for why I think guys are discriminated against in this industry, before you just automatically disagree with what I'm saying right now. I think I made a pretty solid argument for that is actually the case. This right here, and I'm going to address this in a future video, especially in the video I make when I leave this job, but this right here, between what I'm facing at work, the shit that goes on there, and the shit that goes on with these interviews, and how all these places just ghost me, this is why I'm never happy in a job. I have to work so damn hard to find one, period, and then when I get one, I get treated like garbage. This is why I'm never happy, alright? I had somebody ask me one time in the comments that, well, have you ever actually had a job you liked? And I got really defensive about it, because I know I've made several videos about, like, how awful my jobs are and that I left. But, yeah, I had jobs that I kind of liked. They didn't always work out, or the ones I liked didn't pay enough money to live on. But this is my issue. And it's like, yes, I've had jobs that I liked. I just, when I get into those jobs, a lot of times it's the people I work with or the people I work for that take a job that should be just a job, just something I do, something that I don't feel either negatively or positively about, and make it awful. And that is my current situation in the job that I'm in. Everybody says, oh, well, why do you keep trying to get jobs in property management if you're unhappy? The problem is it's not my job, right? And my assistant manager made this point clear to me here. What I'm unhappy about is not my job. It's how I'm treated. It's not the residents or the guests. It's how I'm treated by management, my bosses, and how things are run around here. All right? Let's just say, to summarize, not properly. And that is my problem with all the different places that I've had jobs. Now, I know there are people out there that love their jobs, and they love their coworkers, and I fucking pray that someday I'm going to find a job that is like that. I know some people work for their best friend, and they just basically go to work and they hang out with them. That would be great. But that's not my reality, alright? And the only way that I see out of that is just building passive income and building my own business and eventually not having to work for someone else. Because honestly, my happiness and my mental well-being should not be based on some other person deciding whether or not to be an asshole that day. So that does give me more incentive, but it also gives me more frustration as far as building my own business. Because on one hand, it gives me more motivation to do it, and it puts more pressure on me to do it, but I'm also not financially able to do it right now. And when you're pushed into something that you know needs to happen, but you can't do it, then that causes a lot of stress. So my point in this video is sort of to vent, but it's also to let you guys know what I've been through. I know I keep saying that I'm leaving my job. I know I keep saying that I'm gonna help my finances out by getting a new job, but I haven't got a new job yet. And if you guys wonder what's going on in the background and why this hasn't happened yet, this is why. So my plan is basically the same as I said in that video where I said I'm leaving the industry. I'm still going to apply for some jobs in the industry. I'm still hopefully going to find something. But honestly, I would try anything at this point as long as it pays enough that I can pay my fucking bills, because I can't do that right now. And I'm not asking to be rich. I'm just asking to be able to meet my basic expenses. And that is not too much to ask. So, if you guys have any connections in Columbus, because of my mom, I kind of have to be Ohio based, but Columbus or anywhere else in Ohio, where I can make a decent living, please let me know. I am a damn good worker, and I have a lot of good ideas, and I can fairly easy to get along with. Just don't be mean to me. It's that easy. All right. So thank you guys for listening to my little rant here. If you have anything constructive about what I can do, please leave it down below in the comments. I do have my computer operational now, so I might be able to edit this video a little bit, and I will also have some more videos with some more content that I wasn't able to do before coming soon, coming throughout the rest of the month. So, guys, send some good vibes my way. Help me out if you can. I appreciate everybody watching this, and stay tuned next week, and who knows, maybe something great will happen in the meantime.